Old City Cemetery is the oldest public cemetery in Tallahassee. It was established in 1829, and then the city acquired it in 1840. It was, at that time, Tallahassee's only public burying ground, so it represents a whole cross-section of the people that lived here during the 19th century. You've got slaves buried here, farmers, governors, regular old store clerks, veterans of war. They had Confederate burials here, Union burials here. We have victims of yellow fever, and at the end of this video, we're going to take you to the witch's grave as well. It's interesting, looks like it had a dove on top of it. It's kind of been worn away in a lily. To have 3 people buried here under one headstone. And just to show how bad Florida weather stuff. This is one of those tombstones that tells a really sad story. Has to be 3 babies buried here. And what's interesting, this one, the top was from February to October. The middle lived for a few days in December. They didn't put a birthday. And I'm thinking that the bottom one, because there's no day, must have been born and died on the same day. This person died in 1884, 64 years of age. Looks like they were from Scotland, native of somewhere in Scotland. I can't read. Interesting, somebody left a hat for him. This is the grave of Reverend James Page, and unfortunately it's broken and it's sideways compared to some of the other tombs here and graves. So I don't know if somebody moved it and broke it, but he was the first ordained Black Baptist minister in Florida. He was born in 1808 in Richmond, Virginia, and he came down here to Leon County in 1828 by his owner. He was ordained at Newport in Wakulla County in 1852, and while he was still a slave, he formed his first congregation at the community of Bel Air. It is believed to be the oldest black church congregation in Florida. And he also was chaplain of the Florida Senate from 1868 to 1870, and at his funeral, which was in 1883, there was about 3,000 people in attendance. This is a metal headstone. I don't think I've ever seen a metal headstone. Now, you would think that this would be the front, But when we go to the other side, there's the hand shaking as if receiving someone into heaven. I don't know if you can see it on here. And then there's this box here which maybe had an inscription in it at one time, maybe held it. And then it almost looks like a sunburst at the bottom. I've never seen anything like it, but it is rusted all get out. We found another one of those. Exact same design. What's really unique, apparently a tree grew up underneath it and it's still stuck in the tree. So I mean, obviously they don't have any markings on it that we can read, but this tree's probably been here, I'd say about 100 years maybe. It's a pretty old tree. So you guys know me and my rabbit hole, so I had to jump down that metal tombstone rabbit hole. And what I found is that there were white bronze tombstones, which I've heard of before. They were cheaper. They were about a third less expensive, and they were considered more progressive than stone. And you can find these in cemeteries all across the U.S. and Canada. And they were a lot more durable than marble. So today you can actually see the inscriptions still on them. They're sand-cast zinc, but called white bronze for marketing purposes. And most of them were made by the Monumental Bronze Company of Bridgeport, Connecticut between 1874 and 1914. I found some other examples on the internet. These ones are a lot more elaborate and decorative. A lot of them are made out of your wrought iron, and wrought iron, of course, is going to rust more. These were popular during the Victorian era in the United Kingdom and also here in America, and were produced by specialist foundries or even your local blacksmith, which is very interesting when you look at these because all of the ones that we found here in this cemetery, and there were about 5 of them in total, had the exact same decorations to them. So we're thinking there had to have been a local blacksmith that was making these designs. There's cast iron and there's wrought iron. Cast iron headstones last for about generations, while wrought iron work often only survives in a rusted or eroded state, which is why I think these ones were made out of wrought iron. And usually you only see cast iron and wrought iron when it's the gates that go around cemetery plots. So it was very interesting to see these. This tomb is different in here. Most people have headstones, but this is a tomb set up just like they are in New Orleans. This is for John Long. It's the entire R.A. Shine family buried here. It's a Gothic style, you can see with the arches, and it has beautiful carved closure tablets on both sides, and as you can see, it's pretty overgrown with stuff, but looks very cool. This was probably built to replace some other type of funerary architecture that was popular at the time. And it looks like he died at the age of 38 years in 1871. So this dates back quite a ways, and obviously was a Mason with the Masonic symbol there. I love how all the plants have grown all over it. At first we thought it was some kind of a bush. And it doesn't look like there's anything on the backside. Just more stuff. Look at the Spanish moss up on the oak tree. Very cool. These are the shine tombs that go with John Long. So these are the other ones that are built above the ground. Very cool. We not only stopped for all kinds of cemeteries, but there was a particular reason why we really wanted to stop at this cemetery, and it's because of the tale of the witch's grave. We're seeking the witch's grave here, and this is a grave that belongs to Elizabeth Budd Graham, who is known as Bessie. She was only 23 when she died in 1889. She had a husband and 2 small children. When you're looking at us filming as we're walking through the graveyard, you're going to notice something very peculiar about her tombstone, and that is the direction that it faces. Most graves face to the east because in Christianity they believe that Jesus is going to come again from the east. Well, her inscription faces to the west.
We only found one other one in the cemetery that faced that way. It's also very unique because this has a 12-foot tall obelisk. It is the biggest monument in this cemetery. The story is that she bewitched a wealthy man into marrying her, and he wanted to commemorate her with this very elaborate stone, and that would be her husband. It's a little hard to see here in the video, but what he put on the tombstone is not only information about her, but he also has a passage from Edgar Allan Poe's Lenore, and it reads, "Ah, broken is the golden bowl, the spirit flown forever. Let the bell toll, a saintly soul floats on the Stygian river. Come let the burial rite be read, the funeral song be sung, an anthem of the queenliest dead that died so young. A dirge for her, the doubly dead, is that she died so young." Because of this quote-unquote weird epitaph, there's a lot of people who believe that she had to be a witch. Some equate the first line, that broken is the bowl, to driving a stake into a vampire. And then the line, the spirit flown forever and a saintly soul floats on the Stygian river, that basically is supposed to mean that a witch's spirit cannot cross the river of death, and it's trapped between life and death. And that Stygian river is the Styx River that we know from Greek mythology, of course. And then saying the queenliest dead means that she was the queen of the dead, and the words doubly dead meaning a witch must be killed twice. There actually is no evidence that Bessie was a witch, and we all know more than likely she wasn't. But the fact that she was buried facing this way is still very bizarre, and people still come to pay their respects to her. And that little vase that's in front of her tombstone there, people will put little trinkets and things in there, and there were some in there when we looked. So, was Bessie a witch? We'll probably never know, but her legend definitely goes on and on and on.